Oops. Oh, looks like I'm having a little bit of a problem with my setup again. Just a second while I fix this. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to switch to this view. There we go. All right. Hi. Welcome to Subcreation. I'm Nathan. I'm an artist and a designer, and this channel is about creative process. Lately, I've been drawing animals from reference with a Sharpie, but tonight I'm starting a new creative project. I'm participating in something called the Monster Project, which is an annual thing coordinated by another designer at my work. The best way to explain it is to show you some examples, which are here on the website. So I'm going to pull that up over here. Oops, there we go. So this is the site for the original Monster Project, which inspired the project that we do at my work. The thing we do at my work is not affiliated with this project exactly, but the idea comes from here. And you can see some examples down here. Basically, the idea is that kids submit concepts for monsters. So you can see some of the kids working on making them. And then what you can see here is that artists create works based on the designs that the kids came up with. So let me scroll through a few more. Just a sec, let me scroll through a couple. So you can see the idea. Essentially, the idea is to make something that's professional and inspiring, that clearly has the essence of the work that the kid came up with, while adding to it and essentially applying style. So I'd also like to show you the project I did last year as an example. So I participated in this last year. And this is the monster I received. So you can see there's a cloud, some lightning, and a house is featured very prominently here. And then this is the monster, which it looks like he circled to make sure I recognized that that was the monster, not the house, which looks kind of like a furry house. It seemed like there was something else going on beforehand that was erased, so I think it might be why he's clarifying that there. But anyway, it's this character who has obviously a couple of slices of pizza, because he's saying nice pizza, pizza. And then it was all of the monsters come with indication of what their favorite food is and their name. So this monster was named Freddy Knobloch, and I took this to be, I kind of interpreted this design as looking a bit like a villain in a bowler hat with a mustache. But then I also thought that it looked like it might be horns. So I tried it both ways, and I'll show you what I came up with. Oops, switch focus over here. Okay, so I did the design as a sculpture in Oculus Medium. So you can see there's it's essentially it was based on the concept of a villain in a bowler hat, and then I combined it with the interpretation with the horns, because when I showed people two variations at work and asked for feedback on which ones people thought I should include, they liked that one best, or they liked their suggestion actually was they liked them both and that they wanted to see them combined rather than making a choice, which is interesting collaboration, because I wouldn't have thought to do that myself. I thought, well, you can interpret it one way or the other, but the idea of actually going with both was interesting. So you can see some of the choices that I made. I thought the house was really great, but I wanted it as a background and so I put it further away and made it much smaller, so it wouldn't be overwhelming the monster. I came up with the idea of adding sort of this brown fur, because I thought the way the house was colored, it was like the only color direction that I had in the image. So I wanted to bring that out, and I thought it looked a bit like fur, so I thought it was interesting to put fur on the monster, which, let me see. Oh yeah, the monster also was colored brown. So, and then of course there are the pizza slices and the poses taken from it. So that's, you can see this is basically kind of set up like a stage. And that's essentially the sort of thing I'm thinking about doing today, or doing now. Let's see. And I have it underlit to sort of, and then also I really loved the name Freddy Knobloch, so I featured that really prominently. I thought that was one of the really cool things about this project, or the design. So that's what I'm starting with. And let me. So that's what I'm starting with, and actually I should switch back to the desktop, because I'd like to show you the design that I'll be working with today. So this monster's name is Raph. Let me see, that's a little too big. I'll just zoom out a bit. Oh, that's as small as it gets. I gotta make the window smaller to get it smaller. Okay, so this guy is called Raph. He likes to eat spaghetti, and he lives in California Springs. So let's see, what else did I have? Obviously he has 5 eyes. He looks kind of a lot like SpongeBob. I think that's fairly common, that the kids will tend to put together designs that are kind of based on something that they've already liked that inspires them. And so part of the challenge will be figuring out how to bring out what ideas he had in it that are original and not to make it look too much like SpongeBob. So that'll be interesting. It does appear to be on a beach, which seems like a part of the SpongeBob theme. So this is actually a really challenging exercise. I'm going to switch back to the other view and talk a little bit more about what I'm doing here before we dive into the process. But so I consider this a design exercise because the real goal is to create a delightful experience for the client, a child who probably had his own ideas, and I have to sell him or her on the changes that I'm making in an instant. So there's no round for feedback. I just create it and that's it. So in my view, this is more a design exercise than an art exercise. There's a lot of craft to it, but this isn't about conveying emotion or an experience that I've had, as much as it is about managing constraints and creating an experience for someone else. So the key here is in selecting the key aspects of the design to amplify the essence. Oh shoot, I just realized I have not been on chat, so if there are any questions. It looks like it hasn't, either the chat hasn't started, or it could also be that my, let me see, it is also possible that I may not be connected. No, it looks like it's on, so I'll just keep going. As far as I can tell, it's on, so I'll keep going. If anybody has any questions, go ahead and post them in the comments. This is going to be as much about the creative process and design as it is about showing the work. So yeah, back to what I was saying. So yeah, it's really about selecting the aspects of the design to amplify which define its essence, and applying a compelling and professional style to those elements. So to do that, I'm going to apply my full creative process. That means starting with a focus on these four things. And here I'm going to pull up some. I'm going to pull up. Oops, I don't have my shirt. Or I can do this on. I'll just do this on white paper. This doesn't have to be. I was using stickies for this before because I like to work with stickies, but really quick, I'm going to switch to the this view. And so the things that we want to think about are who this is for, why they want it, what it is, and how it's made. So in any project that you're doing, particularly in design, it's a matter of being able to dive deep in the details and also maintain a broad perspective. So getting this sort of covers the whole breadth of everything that's involved in creating a work of art or a design, basically creating. And essentially this is an outline for everything you want to think about in anything that you're creating, whether it's an invention, it could be a movie or a cartoon or software, a website, pretty much anything. These are all the elements that come into it. So who this is for a kid. I don't know whether it's a boy or a girl, between ages, let's say age 5 to 8, I believe, is the range that they will be in. So the reason why is to inspire them, essentially to inspire them to be creative. So inspire them in art, and I'll say design, because that's part of, if you watch the video on that website that I was showing you, it talks a bit about the different it talks about essentially the goal of the project to show kids a bit about what it's like to go into a creative profession. On 1 second, I just realized I don't have. I'm missing my phone, which makes it hard to track if anything's. I tracked some of my feed stuff there, so give me 1 second, and I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. I need to be able to add more dynamic timer to that so I can give you guys an idea when I'm just stepping away for a second versus when I'm on a quick break. So let me just pull this up real quick, and then I'll dive back into this. All right, let's head back here. Okay, so we're talking about why the goal of this project is to inspire this one kid, and hopefully it would inspire anybody that would see it. Also, I don't actually. Well, we'll get to that in a second. I'm gonna really quickly hit on what it is. So I'd say, actually, yeah. First about like the kids. So the kids 5 to 8. I don't know them, so I can only use. I can basically have my kids as a proxy, showing it to them and seeing what they think, and so I can hope that if I impress them, if I can inspire them, then I'll be reaching potentially this other kid. So the reason being why is to inspire them, and then the what is it's a 5-eyed monster. On a beach, it looks like. And then the how is going to be 3D sculpt. Oculus Medium I'll put here. So that's sort of the outline of what I'm doing. So it's good to note that and to keep that in mind. Now, one thing that I tend to think about when I'm working on a project, like I was saying, you want to think broadly and then dive in deep. And it's kind of important to remember that you might have seen there have been some studies and stuff that show that people can't really multitask, and you can't really think about all these things at the same time. You can kind of focus just on what you're focusing on. But at the same time, you can sort of keep two things in mind somewhat if you're using your, how do you describe it? If you sort of build up a habit and skill around some of your execution, then oftentimes you can sort of keep, well, let me just keep going on some of the other points that is not, let's see. So let's go on to the next part about the creative process here. So what I'm going to be doing here, is following the model of flare and focus. So that means basically, I'll show that here. This is sort of where you have an additive process followed by a reductive process. So this is sometimes called flare and focus, where you basically go into it coming up with lots and lots of inspiration, things that you'll look for reference. That's what we're going to be doing here pretty soon, gathering reference and then using the things that you find to try lots of different things. You're going to explore using different constraints and coming up with different approaches. And that is, oh, hi, welcome, Lumpy Space Gal. Thanks for joining us. If you have any any questions. I've been kind of outlining what I'm going to do today. I am working on what's called a monster project, and I'm trying to explain the process that I'm going to be following. Where essentially you go into it, you create get a lot of reference and use that to create a lot of different stuff, a lot of different ideas. You just create more and more on this side of things until you have lots of ideas to choose from. And then as you try and indicate. So once you have a lot of things over here, then as you go into this phase, oh, hey, Alice. Well, welcome. Thanks for dropping in. So I'm working on, it's basically an art project. Here, I'll switch over to my other camera, or to my desktop. I mean, this is art that was provided by a kid who is essentially the number of people at my work are doing this. Kids provide the art, and then I do an interpretation of it. It's based on the idea here on this site, the Monster Project. And it's basically where kids provide art, and then artists riff and, well, not really riff as much as develop the work further and try to create something compelling and inspiring for the kid based on that. Yeah, the website is themonsterproject.com. So if you want to see some of the work other people have done, I was just showing, this is the art that I received last year, Freddie Knobloch. You can see this is him here with his pizza slices. He's really into pizza. He has a bowler hat, and it looks like he has a very pointy nose. I took this basically to be kind of a villain, and sort of a typical bowler hat guy kind of villain, like in Meet the Robinsons. But I also did some here. I'm going to pull up the. This is the sculpture. Oh, I'm having a little bit. Okay, there we go. It'll align itself. So this is the art I came up with last year. It's basically a sculpture in medium. You can see he's obviously got the signature pose and the pizza slices. I tried interpreting the mustache as both what looks like a mustache, and I tried it as horns. And when I asked for feedback at work about that, everyone thought that it worked best with both of them. You can see I put the house a little smaller in the background. I interpreted his use of felt pen a bit like fur. So, and then of course there's the lightning. So that's what I did last year, and that's kind of what we're doing. It's kind of what we're doing again this year. Oh, sorry, there's some comments to catch up on here. So Alex said, I've seen something similar where artists make stuffed animals from kids' drawings. Actually, there were a couple stuffed animals last year. They were really cool. Actually, the 3D is not hard. It's what I'm using is called Oculus Medium, so I have these controllers, and it's really very natural. It's just it's like right there in my hands. I have a lot of tools available to me. It makes it really, really easy, actually. So I'd say anyone who has any artistic background, I think if you were to try it out, you'd be pretty impressed with how easy, how natural it feels actually. So let's see, I'm going to switch back to my my sketch. Before we dive into it, I was sort of outlining my process so you can sort of see how I'm going about this. Alice is a designer, so I'm sure is very familiar with all this, how you start out basically trying to use prompts and reference and inspiration. At work in design, we use the term competitive analysis and analogous analysis, which is where you find competitors who are in your space and look at what they're doing and maybe think about how you might do some of those things differently. And then you look at analogous experiences, which is like you're looking at somebody who's not your competitor, but who's doing something related. They're solving a similar problem in a different domain. And so what you want to do is look at those things and then bring them into your space. So anyway, the point what I'm trying to show here is that you kind of go into this focus phase where you eliminate some things and choose a couple things to go forward with. And you might even combine those things, like I did with the 2 different interpretations of the mustache and the horns. And then it really becomes a process of developing one idea forward going out, so that when you get to the end, you have one work, one idea, and one result. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. So we're going to jump into that. Let me just talk real quick about the. So let's see. We talked about flaring and focusing. Let's see. So yeah, then once we have one idea, we'll build on that and try to execute it as best that we can. So tonight I'm going to be gathering some reference. Then we'll do some sketching as part of the flare phase. We'll also look at some color palettes, and as time allows, I'll do some test sculpts. I think we may get through one iteration of this process, but it'll probably take more than just tonight. So let's jump over to Pinterest for some reference and inspiration. So let's go here. All right, go ahead and put that away. So all I did is a quick search for cartoon monsters. If you do a search for just monsters, you end up with a lot of pretty scary stuff. This is actually still pretty scary. So part of what I need to do right now is sort of find things that I really like. I'm going to go ahead and actually create a new board to keep track of the things that I find here. So I'm going to say monster project to help me remember that. I'm going to go ahead and keep it private because there's no real need to put it out there. I guess unless anyone here wanted to access it. You can let me know if you'd like me to share that, but I think it's okay. So I liked this one because it has these sort of big, kind of friendly, cartoony eyes. Also, the shape of the mouth and the relation to the eyes kind of reminds me of the reference or the design a little bit. So this makes me think about the one thing I could do is really emphasize the if I make those eyes big and really glassy, I can really bring out that aspect of it. That's something I can bring a lot of craft to. I like these monsters, even though shape-wise they're pretty different from my source. But I like the creativity of these monsters. So I'm going to go ahead and save that to. Oh, come on, boy! I have too many boards on here. Did I not just create a board? I must be looking right over it. It's called Monster Project, right? Oh, I can just search for it. Monster Project. Huh. I seem to have lost my board already. That is odd. I'm not just overlooking it. I'm going to go over here really quick and see what happened. If I go down to... Something always goes wrong, especially when you're live. Oh, there it is. Monster Project. It's right there. Maybe it was too slow. That's probably what happened. So I'll go ahead. It just added it, and it probably hadn't had a chance to find it yet. Huh. No, it's really not. Okay, we'll forget that for now. I can come back and grab these later. So so I do like those ones. I kind of like the fur on this one here. It's kind of goofy looking, and I'm probably not going to be going for something quite so goofy. I like these. These are from Shutterstock, but I like the super simplistic little palettes of monsters, so I'll probably do some of those here as a part of my warm-up. Oh, I really like this. I like this a lot. This definitely gives me some ideas for the current interpretation of what I have. But you know what? I might just try making another board and see if that just solves it. Monster. There it is. Project. Okay. Create. I'm probably going to totally break everything now. It says, nope, it couldn't save that because, of course, that already exists. But it's not giving it to me. Oh, this is Murphy's Law. Okay, well, I'll need to come back to this later. But you can see there's also some examples down here that are also similarly taking some very simple models and bringing them into 3D space. So that's cool. I like this one. I'm gonna have to come back and gather some of these later. Hopefully I don't lose them. Sometimes it seems like everything changes on Pinterest pretty fast, so it's pretty risky that I'm gonna lose that. But I like this. I'm not gonna be able to do this kind of fur in Oculus, so that's one thing to keep in mind. Oh, thanks for the follow. Shoot, I have my Windows broken a little bit. I need to move it over here. But thanks for the follow. I'm not seeing, unfortunately, I'm not seeing the name. Oh, Instincts 335. Yeah, welcome. I'll check out your channel later on when I have a chance. So these are the other references. One thing about Pinterest, it seems like it usually sort of prioritizes the best toward the top. So, but this I think is interesting, and this one, and I think I'm gonna do a board like this where I do a bunch of different variations off of that. And then let's pull up the on Instagram. Similarly, this also, they fade off pretty quick. They look, after you get down here, they start to sort of be a little bit rougher, but up at the top, it looks like they have some. It's like this guy has lots of eyes, so you can see they're doing sort of that similar thing where I have, oops, you can't see that. This guy has a lot of eyes. So that's, looks kind of like a bird. It's interesting. Another one with lots of eyes. So there's a very different take on the multiple eyes thing. So there's lots to work with here. Not on that one as much as Pinterest, but, and then the other thing that I'm going to want to do, we might spend a little bit of time on later on today if we get, probably before we dive into Medium, is color schemes. I think one of the places you can really bring a lot of craft to this is in your choice of colors. I'm not planning on just using, I'll probably choose one or two of the colors that are in the reference or in the design that the kid provided, but I'm probably going to really try to do a nice color palette. Really like this one. This actually does have some variation of the colors that are already there. Don't see the other one being useful, but maybe this one. Thinking that one, this one, or this one could be interesting. And this is actually a really fun tool if you're not familiar with it. It's called Coolers. I don't know if it's related to, I remember there used to be a tool called Cooler, but I don't think it was spelled like this. But anyway, you just hit the space bar and this page generates a color scheme for you, and then there are some tools for adjusting the color scheme if you want to make some variations on it. So this is I'm assuming it's applying some sort of it's applying the principles of the color wheel to this, because these are actually really nice. Each one that generates, I think, are actually really nice color palettes. So, oh, this one I should actually save. The tricky thing is that it makes you name them, and I don't know what I'd want to call that one. I already came up with a bunch of names that are, I'll just call this another one, Seaside. It looks kind of, I'm picking it because it looks like it could be a beach. So that's some reference. I'm going to actually go back and pull up Pinterest and just kind of keep this up. And now we're going to switch over to some, oh, actually, before we switch to sketching, I have one other set of reference to look at. It's basically, I have some books. So this is The Art of Monsters, Inc. Oh, Tikiwa joined. Welcome. Thanks for joining, Tikiwa. I had fun watching your stream the other day. Looks like you're keeping busy on there. It's interesting. You have your lamp cam, I noticed. And you were working in oil pastels, I think, when I was on there. You did a drawing and started going through some oil pastels. So the thing, so you can see this is, I've got the book here. And what I'm doing is just sort of flipping through it. Fortunately, I haven't done this here before. These pages are a little too big for this. I'm going to pull this up a little bit. These pages are a little too big to really be able to show you a lot of what's in here. But what I'd like to, the comment I'd like to make about this book in particular is, what really inspires me about this book in particular is how different the art is. Obviously, it had a lot of character artists. Some of it definitely is getting closer to what you see in the film. But a lot of it is really different from what they have in the film, which is really cool. And what I find so inspiring about that, let's see if I can get this, it's a little too shiny, is that these guys went, see here, these ones look a little bit more like what's in the film. But what is really cool about this is that you can see that they really push themselves. Oops. So you can see this very different from what's in the movie. Now over on the right, you can see this is very similar to what's in the movie. But you can see that they did just a ton of exploration. Just a ton of exploration here. And they didn't just pick one thing and go with it. But you can see sort of the relationship between it as it developed. Like this is really sort of a Tim Burton kind of feel almost, very different. And then over here you can see they developed it a little bit further. It's got and you can see it's starting to look a little bit like Sullivan, and the concept of Boo is starting there, but it's still different. But you can see just all the variation. This really speaks to the principle I was talking about before, is that these guys really, and a lot of the process that I'm developing here, I've read books. I read the book by Ed Catmull, who is one of the founders at Pixar, and so I'm trying to build on processes that I've learned both in the industry and also from what I know about places like Pixar and Disney. And what you can see that they're doing is they're just really they're pushing themselves to try lots of different things and to learn and to explore. So, I mean, what you'll find essentially is that if you just jump into a project and just execute it straight ahead, you're going to do the thing that you're comfortable with, and you're not going to grow as much, and you're not going to explore. You're not really going to experience. You're not really going to develop art that is really, that's at your boundaries. So that's So, but when you do push yourself, you create a lot of different things. You don't just go with your first idea. You try different things. You'll end up, discovering new things. I mean, art really is a process of discovery, and design is a process of discovery too. As I was saying, that this is more of a design experience or more of a design project than a design or than an art project. But I have this book, Don't Bump the Glump, which is Shel Silverstein. And it is, you can see the kinds of creatures in it. Very interesting. Kind of Tim Burton-ish a little bit, like the one that I showed you that I liked in the other one. But I think the other book, the Art of Monsters, Inc., is a good reminder of how, like, not to be afraid, like, not to shy away from these kinds of explorations, right? You can do these sort of explorations, and if you decide that what you're doing is a little too scary or a little too creepy for kids, obviously Shel Silverstein isn't. Children love Shel Silverstein. And I also always say it's important to remember that kids, part of what enchants kids sometimes is, I mean, it's a monster project for a reason, because kids children's stories are oftentimes about trying to scare kids, and most of like the really great Disney books or movies, are about frightening concepts. They always involve terrifying witches, and the villains really are what make things. And so I would say, this is my favorite one. This one right here is really cool. So these are just some different forms of inspiration. I also have a bunch of them. I'm not going to go through all of them for you right now, but this, let's see. You can see here some of the late stage designs they did in. This is Inside Out. I just love this movie. It's really good. There are also a lot of sort of like color tests, which is why I'm thinking it's really important to start out with some color palettes. Over here, yeah, this is probably one of the things to look at, is like, look at how many different things that they did. And a lot of these don't look like where they finally ended up. This is kind of close to where they ended up. But you see, they had to work through all of this to get here. And so that's an important thing to remember, is you have to let yourself express different ideas along the way to get there. So that's what we're going to try to do. I have one other book here, which I won't won't get into so much, but this is actually all, these are these storyboards that this one artist does at Pixar that creates a lot of, essentially it sets the mood and concepts for a lot of these. I just show like one page. So this kind of thing. I think the value I'm getting from that, or the idea I'm taking from it, is not to just focus on the piece itself or to work out the palette in a tool like the one that we have there. Let me go ahead and pull up some paper and start working now. But the goal is to really, let's see, I gotta get my tea and everything out of the way so I can move my, I gotta get this, there we go. But it's good to kind of move between different mediums and doing maybe a few different, like doing sketches and then doing some digital work, taking some palettes, and then maybe also developing some sort of like sculpt tests is how I'm going to do it. Like the way I would do what was in that last book is I'm going to pull up, well, I'll have a number of pieces of reference, but I'll essentially do some sculpt tests where I paint with, or I do the sculpts, I create the clay with color. And that will really, oh, you know what? I'm definitely going to need I need this, but I also need the original, where is it? I need the original, the source, so I can keep that in mind. Maybe I'll just make this a little bit smaller and put it off to the side so we can kind of have them both. I'm probably going to be relying more on the online reference because I can remember some of the details here. I'm intentionally not pulling up reference for SpongeBob, although I considered doing it as a to help me remember what not to do, because I really don't want it to look like SpongeBob, so I kind of want to differentiate it. But nonetheless, there are essentially two ways to work with a prompt, and that's sort of what I'm treating this source as. One way to treat a prompt is to really do a straight ahead, very literal translation of the prompt. And the other, oh, I can't see still can't see this. There we go. I'm gonna just scoot this over a little bit more. So I'm looking a little bit at the blue guy on the right. But the other way to look at a prompt is to think of it as sort of a challenge. Like, how could I, not just a challenge, but like not that the prompt is a challenge, but that my interpretation of it is intended to sort of challenge the source, right? So, like, for example, when you do Inktober, no one wants to create the same thing as everybody else. Everyone's working with the same prompt. And so if everybody created a really obvious interpretation of it, it would everyone would sort of make the same thing. But what ends up happening is everybody tries to come up with sort of the clever interpretation of it that only they would come up with, which is a lot of fun. That's, I think, what makes it really a lot of fun. If you can see, oh, you know what, I'm having a little bit of a problem with my camera. It's supposed to be fixed. But it's doing this autofocus thing that really ruins things. So there we go. I think I fixed that. So we've got this very happy. And then the other thing to figure out here sort of is this fur. As I'm doing this, it's looking a little bit too, like a little too obvious, a little bit too much like the idea of the source. Rather than being, more doing something else. But that's okay, right? Because like I was saying, part of it is getting through those ideas, right? So if my first attempt ends up being kind of obvious, that's important to kind of get it out. I don't know. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and pull up some tunes here we go. I've adjusted the volume on it a bit, so let me know if it's too loud. I couldn't hear it before when I listened to the last. I went back and listened to it. Maybe it needs to have some teeth or something, I don't know. I want to kind of keep moving, not get too bogged down in the craft of it. The idea is to make a lot of these, so I'm going to try to keep moving somewhat. I am doing 2 passes though, because I think I don't know, that's actually, it might be worth doing more like 1 pass on some of these, but I guess I'm trying to build on what I was doing in some of my other sessions. So previously I was working with a Sharpie, and I did some drawing like this with pencil. Oh, thanks. Alice said, I like how you did the eyes. Yeah, I'm kind of copying the blue guy there a bit. But that's the idea, right? Is to like not worry about the fact that I'm copying right now, because I'll be able to differentiate it as I move forward. I'm trying to learn. Yeah, I think making it friendly. Of course, it has the eyelashes I'm taking from the source. You can kind of see it has eyelashes in the source, which I think is probably kind of a SpongeBob inspiration. I want to be kind of delicate about the fact that, like, I know the kid probably was inspired by SpongeBob, but I know he also doesn't want it, or she, I should say. I have no idea whether it's a he or she. But last year, actually, the kid turned out to be a boy. At the end, we get to see the unveiling with the kids receiving the art, which is really, really a lot of fun. So that's kind of fun there. I think maybe developing this idea a bit. What I could do, let's see, the kid's drawing is a little bit more shaped like this. Now that I think about it a little bit. It has bigger eyes up above. And it has this super happy mouth. I kind of like the idea of its arms going up. Its arms are going straight out in the source. But I kind of like the idea of the arms going up, kind of like a monster that's like, it's scaring you kind of thing. So that's one of the interpretations I'm adjusting. The reason I'm redoing this here a little bit smaller is because I kind of wanted to, I don't like how flat those are. So I think one thing I want to do, and this is actually looking pretty flat too. I should maybe try to get a little bit more dimension around this. And that would mean I think this foot may be coming forward a bit more. And then this one being a bit more back. So you're just following sort of some of the rules that you learn. Some of the rules around trying to make things sort of more dynamic. Okay, so that what I'm also trying to figure out here is I kind of want to figure out how to, like, looking at this, what I don't like is that this hair is a little bit, you know, I did some very random treatment of the hair here and there. I think it needs to have more form to it. So I'm trying to sort of think through the treatment of the hair. I think it looks kind of spiky, kind of Bart Simpson-like in the source. And then I'm maybe treating the bottom of it a little bit more like a beard, so it kind of comes out, tufts out a bit. So we'll give that a shot real quick. Want it to... Thanks for dropping in, Alice. It's really great to... It's been a while since we got a chance to chat. Okay. There we go. Yeah, so I'm going to go with these feet. I think I kind of like them being a little bit smaller up above. I've been doing pretty well, actually. Yeah, I've been busy. Work keeps me busy. Kids keep me really busy. But I always like to have some sort of creative outlet, so I've been doing this a bit. Actually, streaming was my oldest daughter's idea. She wanted to do a stream, so I got set up initially to help her stream. And I started having some ideas of things. Yeah, she said, are the kids enjoying this? All the snow? They have been out in it like crazy. They are really into the snow. Although my youngest is starting to wear out on it. Actually, she's staying in a little bit more today, but they've got a lot of time off from school. 2 days last week, and it looks like tomorrow is going to be another day off. If I go out there with them, I usually end up with a few snowballs down the neck. Yeah, it's been really coming down. It was really windy today. The snow is coming sideways, and you'd see it come down in flurries and kind of go up, and sometimes it's sort of the snow would sort of almost seem like it stopped and then changed direction. Well, you can always go get a sled and find a hill. There's nobody booting people off the hill for not being there with kids. Alright, so you can see this is getting a little bit more dynamic. I'm trying to emphasize, I think the way they kind of go up like drops kind of makes them look a little bit more interesting there. A little more cartoony. Although it's reminding me a little bit of, I might be getting that from SpongeBob. Is it Mr. Krabs, or one of them has these eyes that kind of go, you know, sort of like this, you know. Oops, like that. You'd feel weird going out and playing in the snow. You saw the neighbors out in the street earlier and having an epic snowball fight or something. But you know what you could do is you could, you know, go out and try your hand at like some snow sculptures, or trying to make some sort of snow structure, maybe like a thing, because then you could claim creative art, you know, artistic license. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and just give these eyes like a little bit of a highlight and not worry about getting the treatment inside it there. All right, so that's one take on it. I think what I'm gonna do is pull up. Yeah, like Edward Scissorhands, exactly. I think I'm gonna work with one of these for a moment, so I can get a little bit more variety going. I'm gonna skip the blue pencil this time. So in the simplest form, he is. Then you'd really look like a crazy person. That's funny. Okay, so I'm gonna try it like this. What might be interesting is making the eyes get smaller as it goes down. There isn't a lot happening at the ends, so I'm going to try to keep the hands sort of simple there this time. I'm going to keep the feet sort of along this idea here, but looking at some of the other examples here, I'm going to go ahead and try one that kind of something more like that, I think. So the goal here is to really get through a bunch of these. Is this the one you're referring to, the second attempt? Yeah, that would be the second attempt. Thanks. So some of the things I'm trying here, like one thing I'm doing is I'm kind of pushing its features a little higher up. I need to branch out though and try some more. So one thing to do would be just to go ahead and make it round. Which reminds me of one of the bits of reference I saw. I'm going to try moving its eyes down, because it's one thing people have a tendency to sort of eliminate foreheads in sketches, and I've been doing that. I think one thing would be interesting to do with eyes is to have them kind of looking somewhere, maybe. So that's that. Anyway, how have you been doing, Alice? What have you been up to? I feel weird calling you by your real name, because we usually go by our other identities on here, but see.